Hi there. I'm here with Gina Lane this today, and Gina is a very, very dear person to me now. But back in the day that she's going to be talking about, I didn't really know Gina that well. So Gina's been kind enough to share with us today her experience of a writing that she had that she said really impacted her, and she's gracious enough to share that with us. So, Gina, I'm going to hand it off to you. You can give a little context, and I'm anxious to hear your experience as well. So, take it away, Gina.
All right, glad to. This writing, which looks like this, by the way, um, is very brief. It's probably one page typed, and it took place in October of 2006. And that day, Catherine came to my apartment and she sits down with a client with a yellow pad of paper and a pen and a box of Kleenex because you never know how much emotion is going to be elicited. And the only thing that I had told Catherine before she started writing was that I wanted to talk to a family friend. And with that said, this is how the writing goes. And it does choke me up. God, welcome Gina. They come in their swords and loincloths, as if battle is the place of revelation. The blood they bleed no less real, with or without understanding. Upon which blade the truth is pierced, matters not, you see. For in the nakedness, the laying down of the need for protection, true liberty is revealed. And that's the introduction. And now comes the friend that I had mentioned to Catherine, comes right in and he says, okay, I can't teach you how to put a worm on a hook. Wow. And the reason I say that is because the family friend that I wanted to connect to had died the year before this writing. And I've known him all my life. His name was Bryant. And he was when my father and Bryant were 17 years old, they had signed up to fight in World War II as Navymen. And they were on this giant battleship together, and somehow they found each other and found a friendship, formed a friendship. And they could not have been more different. My father was kind of swarthy looking, tending to overweight in his later years, whereas Bryant had twinkling blue eyes. He was very short and skinny as a twig. But they were both fighters and scrappy, old-fashioned guys. So at any rate, when I told Catherine I wanted to talk to a family friend, what she didn't know was that for over 50 years, my father and Bryant used to go fishing every single week. And so when this writing says, I can't teach you how to put a worm on a hook, I was blown to my core. Because obviously he's saying, I got a way to get to you. I got a way to tell you I'm here, I'm okay, and I'm talking to you. So the writing goes on to say, this is me now reacting to Brian. I say, you sweetheart, I loved you. And he says, loved? What am I, a cold fish now? And of course, again, with the fish, I was just blown again out of my socks. And so I said, that big guy misses you, which means my dad. And this is what Brian says. But he can't believe it. That apple has a tree that's full of a lot of manure. Now I have to tell you what this means. Okay. Um, in my dad's backyard, he had planted this weird apple tree that had a bunch of different grafts on it. So he was at that time experimenting with grafting different apples to his tree. And the apples were big, but they weren't, they were kind of dry. And they would, when they fell to the ground, I remember all the beetles crawling around, crawling around in these apples. And so for me, this again was another wow moment, you know. I don't know how Bryant picked that, but he did, and it meant something to me. Excuse me. So I say to him after hearing this, "Oh my God, would you?" And then I say, "Would you want to send any message to my dad?" And his response from Bryant says, "Don't wear fleece-lined jackets in summer because it's proof you've lost your mind." Okay, again, Catherine wouldn't know this, but my dad used to wear those flannel Pendleton kind of, heavy shirts in the summer, well, year round, but also in the summer. And then I say, oh my God, I say it again. It's all true. And what I mean by this is I am convinced. I'm convinced of all of it. There's a God. There's an afterlife. He loves us. We can talk to our loved ones. Oh my God. Can you imagine what that means to anybody? So Brian's response is, it's always been, but it's not as much fun. I think he means that maybe, it's better not to know because then it's a surprise. I think that's what he means. And then Brian goes on to say, do those Sudoku puzzles and leave the mysteries to the higher authorities. Ask your angels, and now that's me. I love you. Give him a swift kick and a wink from me. Okay. And that concludes Bryant's part of the writing. And now God concludes by saying, the loincloth is laid down, and the sword need not spill blood to receive the easy. Go with God.
Wow, Gina. I'm going to put us both on screen now so we can both be seen. And that's an amazing writing.
Yeah, it is to me. I hope it is to everyone. I have a feeling it's definitely more impactful to the client because she or he knows the little nuances that you, Catherine, don't know.
Well, and I don't know, typically when I'm doing the writing, people are like, oh, but I don't have the context like you just provided about what that is for Brian and you. And did you, I'm sorry, I'm going to sneeze. Oh, okay. Sorry. God bless me. Sorry.
Yes.
So did you, I mean, what was that like for you besides being blown away?
Um, it was, I don't know if I mentioned this, but the feeling when you sit down with a client is um just like I feel like my soul was really open
Hmm.
and warm. I felt the room was warm and that there was sunlight bathing both of us. I don't know what the weather was like that day, but uh, in my soul, and I think yours, it was very, it was spring. um, just so delicious and warm, inviting. Um, and what you didn't know, what happened later that day was I took a walk to our local library, which is about 2 or 3 blocks away. And this is in Goleta, which is, I guess it's considered a beach town, but we're pretty far from the beach. Uh, like a 5 minute drive or so, 10 minutes. And while I was walking to the library, this smell of fish came wafting through. I have never smelled
Wow.
fish in Goleta.
Wow.
Never. I'm not even in Santa Barbara.
Wow.
So that was again like a smile and a,
Uh,
it was awesome.
that's
It was
amazing.
awesome. So what I felt was, yeah, this man is my angel, and he has come back from time to time in my writings. He'll just pop in and say hi, and I've got your back, and it's going to be okay. And
Wow.
Bryant helped me through my father's death when
Mm.
when Catherine and I would have writings as my father's, illness and his old age progressed. Brian would come in and say, "Don't worry, little lady. You're loved up here. I'm waiting for that guy, and I've got the fishing tackle ready. I got the boat." They used to love playing gin rum. Brian would say, "I've got the cards out, got the table, got his chair out."
Wow. And that gave you comfort.
Yes. Yeah.
And how did it change, or did it impact your really being able to feel him with you? I mean, how did it impact your grief, or were you in grief, or I don't know what I'm asking, but um
Yeah, I mean, I'm jumping forward now to 2019, and I'll give you an example of what I've just described was May 8th, 2019. Little did I know that my father would die that morning.
mm,
And it just so happened that Catherine was going to be in my town. I had moved to Solvang, and she was going to meet some friends. So at this garden center, and I told Catherine, "Well, let's meet up. I'll at noon." And so I got in the car and I started to drive toward the garden center, very close to my house, probably about 8, 9 minutes. And my cell reception was horrible at the time. But I noticed that my sister had called me. And I thought, uh-oh, that's not good. Why, why is she calling me in the middle of the day? And then my older brother, who lives in Alaska, called me. I
mm.
went, okay, I think dad has died. I think that's what's going on. So I pulled over, tried to call both of them. I couldn't get coverage. I ran into the garden center, and there's Catherine with some other friends that were there. And I said, "Catherine, I think my dad has died. Can you connect up with him, or can we have a writing?" And she said, "Of course. Let's get you some cell phone coverage." So we told our friends, we're gonna be away for a little while. We jumped in the car, started driving. Catherine, do you remember this? I don't know if you do. We're in the car driving back to my house so that I can pick up some additional bars. And Catherine said, "Oh, it's your dad's friend. I'm getting a message that,
I don't remember that, but
oh God." And he said, and you said, "Oh, he's saying, I got him. I got him. He's with me now. We're playing cards."
wow.
Oh my gosh. So
Wow.
yeah, that was incredible.
Wow.
You and I had a writing with my father, and who had died at something like 6:30 that morning.
Mm.
I was at that time, I was so numb, Catherine,
Wow.
because it was so, your emotions either, I guess, shut down in a sense.
Hmm.
But he had said, yeah, I'm here with Bryant and he's trying to whip my butt in a card game. And we got the boat ready and we're going fishing. So yeah,
Wow.
it it was impactful for sure. And it continues to be impactful.
Right.
Yeah.
Wow. 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 Huh.
Yeah. So Brian had told me throughout the years when he would come into my writings occasionally, he'd say, that was your father and I had a great life. That was when, men were real men. And
Huh.
yeah, it was great.
Wow. 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 And any guesses about the very dramatic about the swords and the loincloth?
Oh,
Did
yes,
did that did that resonate with you?
yes.
Because it's
Oh, yes,
now 2006, apparently things were much more abbreviated than now. The writings are much more lengthy in the
yes,
intros and the
yeah,
writings themselves, I guess. But
right.
um
Yeah, it
I'm
did.
curious because it's so beautiful. They're all beautiful. All the
Mhm.
intros are beautiful, but that one's so pronounced. What did did that resonate with you at all, or do you think it was talking about the relationship of the two men, or was referring to you, or the whole thing? Do you have
Uh,
any thoughts about that?
Surprisingly, right away, I felt that that the analogy for me was the Greek plays and how humanity, I think we are provided with this gorgeous, interesting, complex, difficult life.
Mhm.
And we all take part of, multiple parts throughout our lives, but we're in a sense in a play that is finite.
Mm,
Um, Now, whether we agree to it, whether we learn our lines as we go, I don't know. But for me, this was saying, you're going to have your props, you're going to have your emotion that you come in to, and you're going to have these conflicts with each other.
mm.
Sometimes they're bloody, other times they're not. But whether you understand them or you don't, it is going to be authentic, real, and you're going to feel it.
And what was
That's
the
what the writing meant for me.
wow? And what was the last line?
Um, The loincloth is laid down, and the sword need not spill blood to receive the easy.
Uh,
So, at the end of your life, you put down your sword, you
mm,
take off your
Armit.
loincloths,
Yeah.
your togas, your laurel leaves, your sandals, and you lay them down there, and you're all, an equal
Wow.
position, I guess.
Wow.
So that this is temporary, perhaps. Maybe that's what it's saying, that
Mhm.
it's a play, it's complex. It's
And yet there's love and connection and it
yes,
continues uh
definitely.
and how did you ever tell your dad that you had connected with Bryant?
Did I what?
Did you ever tell your dad while he was alive?
Yes,
How many
I
years
did.
later did your dad, how many
I
years
did
after?
tell him.
Oh,
Okay, so this is 2006. My dad passed away, what, 13 years later?
hmm.
I did tell him, I tried to tell him about the writing. And he thought, ooh, that's weird. So my dad was not, he was not
It's okay.
I
It's
don't
okay if
know. I
you
don't
didn't. I just
know.
didn't know because it is so difficult to explain.
It is.
Um,
Yeah.
and did you ever talk to your dad? Not that I'm saying you should have, but did you talk to your dad about if he ever sensed Bryant around him or anything? Did you have those discussions? Not that you should have. I'm just curious
No, I didn't. I did
because
not.
it is
Um,
really hard for people to have these experiences like you
mhm,
had, where you know you're connecting with the person
mhm,
and you want to share that because you
mhm.
want to share the comfort, the ease, but it is such a stretch. And I completely and utterly respect how out of this world and impossible
Yeah.
this all sounds, and yet it's true. So anyway, I wasn't trying to uh
Right.
tell you you
But
should have or whatever. I was just curious because I think that is part of what happens is the writing shifts how you're holding your grief, how you're holding life, how bereft people can be, and how accessible when they make contact. It's so real, and yet we live in this world where that just is an impossibility in most cases. I mean, so and
mhm.
I totally get people's difficulty in believing, except for once you have the experience, you can't pretend you didn't. You can't go back, right? And how did that impact your whole belief about death? Did it or subsequent deaths when you lost your other relatives or having had connection with Bryant like this and it being so
Yes,
real to you?
it did profoundly impact my beliefs, as I say, with just open the universe up entirely. Um, and once you're comfortable with accepting it as part of part of our creation, then it's quite easy to feel the connection with others besides Brian. My father, my mother, I've talked to my mother after her death also, and a few other people.
Mhm.
Um,
Mm.
so, but as to trying to explain the writing, this one in particular, because as I say, it's very arcane, the introduction, open-ended. Um, I don't know how you would begin to describe what you, Catherine, do,
Mhm.
you know,
Yeah.
and what you were feeling when you were writing that, or any of your writings.
During the writing, it's just I move aside, not that I'm not there. It's not woo wooey. It's just like sitting down and chatting like we are now. So I really don't have because I don't have emotion around it. I just know um that my intention is to be of service and that's how I enter the experience, but I don't really come in except for I come in with anxiety and trepidation if it's like say a parent who's lost their child or whatever. I because I'm not in charge, and as you said, I know nothing. I really don't know nothing and about the individual. I don't look at
Mhm.
a picture. I don't need to see something or know how someone died or whatever. I don't need any kind of context or information. Although that said, I do have people say, I want to talk to my sister or whatever. But or sometimes not. And I want to be clear, these dead people writing, or for lack of a better way to say that, are a very thin slice of what I do.
Mhm.
I would say maybe 10 or 15%. I don't know because I don't keep track of numbers or whatever, but it's a small percentage. And oftentimes I don't know anything, and a person will drop in themselves. I call dropping in because I don't know how, I don't have a better word to say that. They
Mm.
just drop into the writing, and then I'll say, "Oh, there's some man," and I don't see the person. I I feel their energy from the inside out, but I don't have context. And um so again, I'm not emotionally pulled in. Obviously, I'm emotionally pulled in uh and empathetic to the person's reaction and their loss and compassionate and all that. But so I don't really feel, I'm not feeling anything. I'm just being sort of making room for this experience to happen. And I always think about it as it's not my product. So I'm not I mean, I understand I'm producing something and I'm showing up and I'm facilitating something, but I'm as surprised as the person that I'm working with, And so yeah, and I know, as you know, for many years I never ever ever wanted people to know what I did or my gifts or that I had this capacity, a capability and unique skill set. That's only been in like the last since writing Beyond Ever After with Jocelyn that I was willing to come out of the the closet, as it were. So yeah. Well, thank you, Gina. I mean, thank you for your willingness. I mean, I was enthralled hearing this story because I didn't remember. I remember that you were moved, but I don't remember the details nor this part of it. And it's just, and and that fortunately is a common experience if people do choose to tell me, like, oh, this meant that. I don't ask, like, I may say, does that resonate with you or whatever. But when people are talking to deceased people, they're crying, they're emoting, and I just figured they're in grief, they've lost their loved one. So I don't at the end ask them, well, what did that mean or whatever. So I really enjoyed you fleshing out that context. And
Yeah.
and for all the ways that that you support the writings and what all of these, and and are willing to share your experience. So I just want to say thank you. And if it helps anybody who sees this, that's what we want.
Mm.
And that if you feel your loved one with you, don't go like, ah, that's not real. I'm making that up, or I'm just imagining things. No, that they really are with you. So
They
at least
are.
that's what I believe.
Mm.
And I love that he orchestrated the fish smell, because that often happens. Something that's in a writing will then appear in people's realities, and
Mm.
they'll be like, whoa. So yeah, good on Brian. And thank you, Gina,
You're
so
welcome.
much
That's
for your vulnerability and your candor, and sharing this deeply profound. I do remember when I had forgotten, but I do remember when you were saying it. I remember thinking, like, oh, come on, the timing of this. Gina's about an hour away from where I live, and I barely ever go up
yeah.
there,
Same.
and so, and I don't drive that much, the mountain pass or the freeway. And so, I do remember thinking, oh, this is all in divine timing. It's like the universe is taking care of having that,
Yeah.
having that happen, then not like your dad was waiting for us. I better cash out that morning. But, yeah. Well, thank you, Gina. And I so appreciate it. And thank you.